Dave? All right, we'll call the meeting to order. Roll call.
Seven present, two absent.
All right, we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First of all, I want to welcome Tom Modens as our new finance director. Welcome, Tom. We look forward to working with you.
Yes, thanks. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Just completed my first day here. It's been a great day with introductions to staff and getting a little inside peek of what my future will be here. And I'm excited for starting this new chapter.
And we're just as excited to have you there. All right. Proposed additions or deletions to the agenda. Vicki.
I would propose to remove item J.
That's on the regular business.
The Willmar Y easement.
Yes.
Okay?
Mayor, I have an announcement for Community Pride, just a short announcement at the end.
Okay. Now, we need a motion on the removal.
I'll
Becky gave us the motion. Carl seconding it. Any questions?
Why are we removing it?
The reason why we're removing it is because we did find the resolution that was passed earlier for the Y easement, and so now it authorizes the mayor and the administrator to sign that easement, so we'll just sign it and we're all good. It just wasn't recorded.
Okay. Thank you for that. All those in favor say aye. You want this voice vote, right?
Electronic and a marker. It's up to you.
Oh. I thought they all had to be voice vote when they were absent.
In this case, it would need to be a voice vote.
Okay, hold on a second.
Sorry, voice vote. I meant roll call vote.
This is a roll call then.
Roll call vote. All votes tonight would need to be roll call votes and announced because we have one of the members participating.
Okay, so we won't even this with the computer. Okay. Sorry about that. Councilmember Osk, what do you say absent? Nelson?
Aye.
Davis?
Aye.
Schultes?
Aye.
O'Brien?
Aye.
Butterfield?
Aye.
Osmus?
Aye.
Fagerly?
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
All right. Consent items. Judy?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, on tonight's consent agenda, we have for council's approval the city council minutes of June 5th, city council work session minutes of June 12th, planning commission minutes of May 17th, planning commission draft minutes of June 7th, municipal utilities commission minutes of June 12th, the accounts payable report from May 31st through June 13th, a resolution to consider accepting age-friendly Minnesota grant, Cooper's Minor Subdivision. For council's information, the Rice Hospital Board application of Joyce Elkier Sunberg and the building report for May of 2023.
All right. We need a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Discussion. Roll call.
Councilmember Nelson.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Schultes.
Aye.
O'Brien.
Aye.
Butterfield.
Aye.
Osmus.
Aye.
Bagerly.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
All right. Judy, it's the open forum. Do we have anybody?
We do, yes. Excuse me, just one moment. I'll get them up here. And our first speaker is Kenneth Newberg.
Ken, good evening.
Good evening, council members, mayor. I am Kenneth Newberg. I am president of the Willmar Senior Citizens Club, and I started a petition to go to the J.C. Penney building. I have talked to a lot of the groups that meet at the community center, and I have Willmar residents and non-Willmar residents. And I had heard that there was a rumor said that somebody talked to all of the vets, said that they all wanted to stay where it is at the present site. Well, when I talked to the vets, I have 15 names that have signed on this petition to move to the J.C. Penney building. So, where that rumor come from, I have no idea, but, I just wanted to clarify that one there. And it would be more centrally located. You have the heart of the city, you have shopping, you have banks, you've got everything right there, easy access, more than it is at the present site, and cost-wise, it's much better to go to the J.C. Penney site. And also, we are going to lose people if if you decide to build at the present site. Okay, where are we going to, where is the community center going to be at? Any time that you move things, us as senior citizens, and I'm speaking for the groups out there, they are going to be losing members. So, I would like that to, to be looked at also. And one move would be much better and a lot less cost. Now, I'm going to turn these petitions in here to the city clerk for you to look at and look over. Thank you.
Thanks, Ken.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay, our next speaker would be Chris Riddell.
Good afternoon, Mayor Reese and Council. My name is Chris Riddell. I live in the northwest side of this community, not in Willmar itself, but I'm a participant in Willmar Fest, the chair of Willmar Bikes, and I do a lot of volunteering in this community all around. And today I have come to communicate to all of you about the city office community center discussion. And I know that this is a controversial issue, and I appreciate the council and city staff putting in so much time and energy into such an important decision for this community, because I really do believe this is a very, very important decision. There are multiple factors that need to be considered with this project, but two stand out in my mind. The first one is the financial impact to our citizenry and to your constituents. The second is the impact of the future location and the implications of whichever site all of you decide. I think that it is absolutely important to consider that while the city is considering new offices and a new community center, upwards of $20 million, maybe more, WMU is also working on a $15 million water treatment facility. And those costs are going to be bared by the people in this community. And as Councilmember Fagerly has accurately depicted, WMU will also be working on a new facility center, which could easily cost $10, $15 million, easily. All of these costs are going to be burdened by the people who are in our community. One other piece that I want to bring up is that City Operations Director Box brought up at the last work session that the city auditorium is an issue that has to get dealt with. It's likely a multi-million-dollar issue, and this too is not something we can just kick down the road. We are going to have to deal with it sometime or the other. After all this, what I would love to see, because going over the figures from last week's work session, I was disappointed to notice that I didn't see a cost estimate of gutting and remodeling the current city office building. I did see that there was something in the community center to gut and replace or remodel that building without building new.
Chris, your time is up.
Thank you all for your time. I really appreciate it. And thank you all for being city council members. I know it's a lot of work.
Thank you.
Okay,
All right.
Our next speaker is Jacob Lefevre.
Mr. Mayor, distinguished council members, my name is Jacob Lefevre. I am an 18-year veteran of the Minnesota National Guard, a healthcare professional in this community, a graduate of the Willmar High School, and a citizen. Recently, a Facebook page called Vision Willmar came to my attention, specifically a post about parking lot repairs at the mall. I am also aware that the city is considering moving their offices into the old JCPenney building location. I am against this idea and will provide my reasons hereinafter. For as long as I can remember, the Candy Mall, now Uptown Mall, parking lot has been in a state of disrepair that has been ongoing for over 2 decades. Ownership has changed many times, but the poor conditions of the parking lot have remained constant. Not only are the parking lot conditions terrible for vehicles, but also pose a serious risk to pedestrians. With 4 to 5 inch craters, it's easy to imagine one of our elderly family members exiting their vehicle, falling, and breaking a bone. This could cause severe injury to a citizen in the community, needless suffering, trauma, medical, and financial expense. What infuriated me about this post by Vision Willmar on Facebook was regarding an answer in the Q&A post. One question was, will the parking lot be fixed along with the remodel if the city of Willmar chooses to remodel the JCPenney's location? The answer was yes, an additional $2 million would be dedicated to repair of the parking lot. My question to them, which has not been answered, is why are the owners of the mall waiting for the city to commit millions of dollars to this project before they consider dedicating their own money to the maintenance of their property? The owners of this Vision Willmar page are trying to manipulate hearts and minds in our community to rope us into a contract to occupy part of this building that its owners refuse to maintain. I ask you, what have these owners ever contributed to our city? How have they shown loyalty to our community? They aren't even dedicated to their own financial investment. They write letters to the council to avoid paying their fair share of city assessments for direct improvements to their property. And now they are setting terms for the repair of a parking lot, which is a safety hazard and has likely cost our citizens tens of thousands of dollars in vehicle damage. The mall has changed ownership multiple times by organizations not even located in our state, let alone in our community. Do not feed into the manipulation and move into a location solely on the possibility that they may repair the parking lot. I am concerned even if the city would move forward with this project and if the owners of the mall would repave the area, knowing their track record, they will likely do a poor quality job, leaving the front of the city offices parking lot in a continued state of decay. I challenge the city council to not only pass on the city office's mall location, but additionally direct city staff to develop a parking lot quality ordinance, which if basic requirements are not met,
Your time is up.
Thank you.
Is that the last one, Judy?
That is the last
Okay.
individual, yes.
Well, thank you. James, our Willmar Fest royalty, you going to introduce them? Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Mayor Reese, members of the council. I am here with one of our royalty. Unfortunately, Queen Layton is doing, Chief Felt, what is it called? Skills training. So she's being gassed tonight, maced tomorrow, tasered on Thursday, and pepper sprayed Friday morning.
Oh, my goodness.
And you thought being a mayor was hard.
Yeah.
If you were queen of festivals, come on, look at that. But no, she's going through her law enforcement training, so she is unable to be with us. But Aqua Princess Leah Smith is with us tonight, and she'll talk a little bit about her experience. But I'm here as Willmar Fest Board President, once again, with the opportunity to present to you guys and talk a little bit about our city celebration. This is the 77th celebration of the city of Willmar, starting back in 1945 as Coffee Fest and changing in the late 80s into Willmar Fest to show off and celebrate all the different things within our community. And we've put together, again, a great slate of events to get people involved, to get people out building community within Willmar. And in front of you, you have a copy of our schedule. And that's also on our website, on our Facebook page. But we start things off, and this is an opportunity for me to invite you to be part of this as well, as council members and citizens of Willmar, to enjoy in the festivities and be part of it. But we do start off recognizing our coffee heritage and our Scandinavian heritage with the Coffee Fest with the candidates, the goodness. That'll happen tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. if you can come out and meet the 9 candidates this year. We tripled the number from last year. We're excited about that. More amazing young ladies who are looking forward to going out and representing the community of Willmar throughout the state. And they do a phenomenal job. We even sent them over to South Dakota to freeze in February. But to get out there and talk about Willmar, talk about our community, talk about the good things happening here. And these 9 young women will have a chance to meet them tomorrow morning. And then throughout the week, we're pretty excited about tomorrow as we've been able to partner with the Willmar Kiwanis Club for our Kiwanis Kids Day event at Rice Park. They've got a lot of activities, inflatables, all leading up to the Prairie Wind Summer Band Concert and the Pie and Ice Cream Social. Thursday, the block party is back, and we're excited to have the dunk tank return again to downtown Willmar. Chief Felt, Chief Hansen from the Willmar Fire Department, Gary Manzer is also going to be in the dunk tank, right, Gary? He's still said yes. That's good. We got that on record. He is also our Grand Marshal for the parade. So you get to dunk the Grand Marshal if you want to come out. And who am I missing? Oh, Chief Tullifson will be in there, plus a few other dignitaries and surprise guests, so that'll be kind of fun if you want to be part of that. But the Ninja Anywhere event returns. We'll have music with the Damn Jammers. Just a fun community event, plenty of food and other things. Friday night is the Willmar Stingers game again. That's become a tradition. It was funny, we got to go to Anoka this year, or last year, I guess I should say, over Halloween, and a lot of the visiting royalty who come to Willmar Fest talked about the baseball game again. Because it's something unique to our community that we do, that we get people involved in, between the challenges for the candidates out that night and just the opportunity to kind of mingle and rub elbows and shoulders with people of significance in our community. I have a pair of tickets for each of you if you can come out and represent the city of Willmar at that game on Friday night. Again, meet the visiting dignitaries, all the royalty that come to our community, but also our sponsors and the different people involved in our event. We have a lot of volunteers that will be at that event as well. Then, of course, Saturday is the big day with the pancake feed in the morning with the Willmar Fire Department. The Foot Lake 4 is happening once again. It's so great to have that back for a second year in person. The Grand Day Parade at 10:30, and I believe all of you are going to be in the parade, correct? Nod heads, yes. Okay, good. Because we'd love to have you there. It's a great opportunity to meet so many great people. And then the beach party. We cap things off with the Little Crow ski team, music from a group by the name of Radio Nation. We're excited to have them on the stage. And then, of course, the Lakeland Broadcasting and the Works Over Water. So that'll be part of all of the fun events. And again, there's so many things going on. If you can get to any of them, we would truly appreciate that. I'm going to step back because I talk too much. And I want Leah to have an opportunity to show us a little bit about what they were doing. And let's see here if I can find the slideshow. There it is. We expect these young ladies to go out to a lot of events. They really do get a chance to go out and really represent our community. Leah, this is your turn. I'm trying to think what the number of events is. It's like 30 different things throughout the year where they get to go out. They eat a lot of food and have a lot of fun, but talk a lot about the community of Willmar.
Hello. As James said, I'm the 2023 Willmar Fest Aqua Princess, Leah Smith. That's our queen. Yeah, we've gone to all these events and we've met all these amazing people, and it's truly been an unreal experience. So this is us at our most recent event, Montevideo. They have their festivities the weekend before us, so we get super, super close with them, and we twin with them. And then this was us at our father-daughter event. We just started going to that this year, and I think it should continue throughout the following years. All the girls enjoyed seeing us, and we even had the dads dancing with us, too. So,
what else you got? Oh, that's all of it. Yeah. Oh, the shortest presentation ever. That's awesome. We do run them all over the place, though. Anoka, Aquatennial. And again, it's that opportunity for them to meet a lot of different people, but talk about our community when they're out and about. So we really appreciate that opportunity. And this year, Leah and Leighton will hand off the crowns to 3 new girls who will get the opportunity to do that as well next year. I got a couple thank yous I want to just throw out there, and I think this is great for the citizens of Willmar to understand how much work goes into a festival like this. We have 10 volunteers on our board. We're also blessed to have Judy Thompson as board liaison, or from the city liaison. Riley Kennedy has joined us from Main Street Willmar as well as a liaison, and Beth Fisher from the Willmar Convention and Visitors Bureau, which has been a great help for us. But we couldn't do this, the 10 of us, without people like Gary Manzer and Kyle Reduns and the Public Works Department. I can't say enough good things about them and what they do for this community, not just for Willmar Fest, but throughout the year. They are absolutely amazing. The Willmar Police Department is instrumental in a lot of the things that we do. Sergeant Oakleaf is probably ready to hurt me because of a change to the kiddie parade. But the idea that we can throw stuff off them and say, can we try this? Can we do this? And will you be there to help this? And they step up right away. Same thing for the Willmar Fire Department, Frank Hansen and his team, the Willmar Parks and Rec Department, the Willmar Community Center. Just so many great things going on in the city that allow us to celebrate it. And then they're right there to partner with us when we need help and have those opportunities to get together. So, okay, I'm done soapboxing. Do you guys have any questions for us? Going.
I'd just like to thank you, Leah, for stepping up and representing our city. And I know it's a lot of time. It's a huge time commitment. And so we really appreciate that you've been willing to do that.
We had the opportunity at the Vets Coffee on Monday to talk to a lot of the girls. Excuse me. To talk to all the girls, and it was a lot of fun to sit there and to talk with them. Very, very fun to talk with them.
Good. We appreciate that. We're pretty proud of our royalty right now, the outgoing, the 2. And this group of 9 is a pretty impressive group of young ladies, and we're pretty excited about that.
I know firsthand, as my daughter was Frameries, if I'm not mistaken, many years ago,
Let's not go back that far, because that would have been about my time. Yeah. Well,
But
and
I
your- And then your
know-
granddaughter as well now.
Yes, my granddaughter was queen of festivities, yes. But I know how much they travel and, what is it, the snow?
Yeah, South Dakota Snow Queen
South
Festival out in
Dakota
Aberdeen.
Snow.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah, and that's in the middle of winter. But I remember them traveling quite extensively and having a good time.
Absolutely.
So, thank you. Yes, Julie?
Not only the, the dedication and the commitment of the princesses and the queens, but their parents. They don't get a lot of pats on the back, but they are right along with it. I believe they drive the truck to the parades, the Public Works gets ready, and they're just as committed as their daughters. So thank you to them as well.
Yeah, it is truly a family affair. Over the years, it's not just the parents, but it's the siblings as well that get dragged into it, and it really is a great opportunity, but they do show up, and it's awesome. Very good.
And thank you to you, James, and your group for,
I do nothing but coordinate and stay out of everybody else's way. It's so much easier that way. We've got an amazing board, and it's a lot of fun. Some past royalty. We've got Mike Kubish on there and John Schmidt, who just kind of organize and keep everything flowing. So we've got a really, really good team, and it's been an honor to be able to be president for the last several years, and excited to hand it off next year to a pair of co-presidents. Yeah, if you remember last year, I said I was done. I was wrong. They can't get rid of me quite yet, so it'll be good. Thank you.
all right, thank you. We look forward to.
And thank you for not putting the clock on me, too.
You didn't have a timer, so.
We know better, Jill.
I know.
All right, the fun's over, now we can start going to work. We got a public hearing, Willmar municipal land sale. We'll open the hearing and Justice.
You don't want to leave the queens up there?
We could. It'd be a lot more fun than what I'm looking at. This is correct. All right, cool. All right, yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. So tonight's pretty straightforward, just kind of how it's listed in the packet. So initially, Willmar Municipal Utilities, they acquired land to the west of them for expansion of this current building, and eventually they got a facility study done, and it showed that even with the land adjacent to them, that the proposed land and the building would exceed what they have. So the land no longer made sense for them to maintain, and so they got an offer for it, and that's what the purchase agreement is for. So it's $280,000 to Charles Market. So then with that, I'll turn it over to you for any questions. And that's just the context. There was no pushback on the planning commission either for this. So with that, Mr. Mayor, I'll turn it over to you for any questions.
How's this, which properties?
This is the property like directly west of here. So there's a, yep, there we go.
Where's that? The old Jerry's building?
Yeah,
And where the old Taco John's parking lot was.
okay, so it's those vacant lots, because they've still got the old MnDOT building.
It's right here. It's right on Litchfield Avenue.
Okay,
MnDOT is on Benson.
So how many properties is it?
Two.
so we opened the hearing. We need a motion to adopt, assign a number, and publish.
Get it. Ask for anybody that wants to.
Public.
Oh,
Public.
okay. Does anybody who wants to speak to this? Any council members? If not, we'll close the hearing. Somebody want to make a motion to adopt?
I'll move to adopt, assign a number, and publish an ordinance for the sale of the land.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Discussion? Roll call.
Councilmember Nelson.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Schultes.
Aye.
O'Brien.
Aye.
Butterfield.
Aye.
Osmus.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
The motion passes. All right. Then we'll open the hearing for public comment on the business two, general business.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, general business 2, rezone explained. All right, let's just get into it. All right, so an overview, just kind of how we got here, what the catalyst was for this decision or this movement, and I think the evolution of the general business district. So it's really kind of the current status and the current state of the general business district, future of the general business district, and then GB2 explained, which is more looking at how the ordinance would operate and then the next steps. All right, so catalyst for this ordinance. Outlot development. So on this is an area of Uptown Willmar, and so as you kind of see along like the southwest part, down in that corner there's a lot of different parcels, and so essentially what they'd made a pattern of was a lot of outlot development where they'd subdivide or they would request a rezone, subdivide, and then they'd come back to us over and over again for a lot of this. And so at the time when I just got this position, Slim Chickens was in process. They were also looking at subdividing like the top part of the mall, putting another business in there, and they were just coming to the city with multiple rezone requests. And so just from there, just multiple rezone requests just become very hard to justify just from a staff level and also just really undermine like the zoning ordinance. So I had a conversation with them, very candid, that if this is what they wanted to do and that they thought general business was the future for what they were trying to do business-wise, that they should rezone the entire thing. The piecemeal rezones for us were not going to work anymore. And so if you remember, Uptown Willmar came to the city council and requested a rezone of their entire building. Shortly after, Skylark Mall also requested a rezone for all of their property as well to compete with Uptown Willmar. And so part of the discussion around that was that by rezoning this, eventually on the back end, that there was going to be an expansion of the general business district and that we were eventually going to chop this up into multiple districts. And that there was going to be a district that included more permissible zoning that allowed a lot more flexibility for what it was that they were trying to do. And so I just kind of, I'll get to the general business district evolution. So I don't know if anyone's ever really looked at a map or kind of thought about it, but general business out right behind residential zoning is general business. So there's all sorts of uses in it. Like it says here, 82 total uses, 52 by right uses, 4 conditional uses, but I mean, it abuts the rail yard. I mean, you can store all sorts of things there. I mean, the scale of development, and I think like the range of development really vary just for the different places all over the general business district. I mean, it's along the corridor going north and south, along the corridor going east and west, and also it's just kind of adjacent to our downtown. This very building is actually its own general business. And that varies drastically from the Runnings or from some of the businesses on First Street or some of the businesses that you encounter on 12th. So, and also when there was an amendment to the general business district recently right behind the Walmart, apartments are going up now in the general business district. So the general business district is really just a home for everything all over the place, and there really isn't any distinct character to it. It's just kind of where we throw everything. That's kind of how it's been used, and that's kind of how it's evolved, and that's kind of how we operate it now. So from staff level, and I think also at the planning commission level, we really talked about kind of looking at these 4 distinct areas and then kind of separating it out into these different zones. So like it says here in the 4 distinct uses, there's large-scale retail just sort of south on Willmar, on First Street, south of Willmar Avenue. Like I said, you got your Runnings, your Menards, Walmart's in that general vicinity, Target's over there as well. And then you have the industrial zone that's really, I think, along this east and west corridor on Highway 12, especially abutting the rail yard. You also kind of have neighborhood scale retail, which in this area, like just west of here, then also kind of abutting the downtown as well. And then also on First Street, that is abutting some of the residential area along 2nd Street. And then you have office space commercial, which is also kind of the predominant use kind of along First Street there as well. And so we were looking at just kind of creating the general business district, general business 2 district, which I said would be the more permissible for a variety of retail uses. One of the big things for the planning commission was increasing the lot size, but not increasing it too much to be exclusionary for folks. And so I guess on those 4 distinct uses, we wanted the more large-scale retail, which is general business too. We were going to look at an industrial general business district, which would be more along the south of Highway 71, where it bends and starts going west, to accommodate Ziegler Cat, West Central Sanitation, those businesses, and then also the businesses running north along Highway 71 as you exit town up towards the tech campus. And then looking at possibly a corridor district that would be more aesthetically focused along the corridors of Willmar. So that would be north of Willmar Avenue and in between, I guess, the north and east and west on Highway 12. So it's 4 distinct districts, and I guess that's just a very high overview of how it would function. All right, so then general business to explain. So like I was saying, so larger footprint for big box retail, more permissible for retail uses. And so one of the things along that, one of the big differences between the old shopping center district and the general business district that it currently operates, shopping center district allowed by right restaurant uses instead of plan review in general business district. And that was one of the big contentions of the mall shifting over. That was one of the things that they were really concerned about. But also, I mean, we had a ton of calls for people who were trying to put amusement in the mall. And so that would go from whether it would be putt-putt, axe throwing, breweries, et cetera. These were things that people wanted assurances that they could do, and they wanted the flexibility to do it. But without it, how the current zoning works, they always had to come back to us for these text amendments. So we had incessant text amendment requests in addition to these rezone requests. And like I was saying, the more you amend the zoning ordinance without, I guess by piecemealing amending the zoning ordinance, really just kind of undermines the whole thing. So it doesn't really make sense. It makes sense more on our end to rezone it as a whole, and like I said, chop it out and break it up into these different districts for what people are trying to do and be more accommodating and more perspective for these uses than anticipated. And then like I said on the bottom here, I think one of the big things, trademark signage. Trademark signage would be allowed, and like I said, so in the general business 2 district, this would be more a place for the big national chains, the regional chains that want to locate in that area, be accessible right off the highway for people, where people are going to drive in from about 45 minutes to an hour to come visit the community. I think for them, they want to have the recognizability, they want the familiarity, they want people to know that, no, these are our signs. And other districts, like where if we get to that point where there's an aesthetically focused corridor district, trademark signage would not be allowed and it'd have to be more unique to Willmar. But in this, like I said, trademark signage, like I said, more big box retail, national, regional chains, like I said, more permissible for the things that they want to do for restaurants and all these kind of things. And so right now, just from how it was operating, people were coming to us with multiple text amendments, multiple map requests. And like I said, that's just not how you administer the zoning code. And so for us, this was just kind of a part of looking at it and try to make it more efficient for businesses and working with people. And that's one of the things I do want to clarify. Tonight does not rezone anybody into the general business 2 district. This just solely creates the general business 2 district. And so I just want to make that distinction. So it does not rezone anybody, strictly just creates the district, and then it'll be an option, then we can rezone people in later. So with that, turn it over to you, Mr. Mayor, for any questions.
Okay. We have anybody that wants to speak in regards to the general business district? If not, council?
Yeah.
Yes, Julie.
Okay, so when you talk about the main corridor, you're talking Willmar Avenue to First Street, or to the bridge?
Yeah, I guess that'd be part of it, yeah.
So when we talk about trademark signage, so we have things like Burger King, Subway, Domino's. That's still trademark signage though, isn't it?
Correct. And so one of the things that like looking at like an aesthetically focused district is that they wouldn't be able to utilize trademark signage, so they'd have to create a unique sign that would only exist here. And so this is one of those things about creating sense of place in an area. That way, like when people aren't just driving, they can just take a picture of our downtown, or I guess like on Willmar Avenue, or not Willmar Avenue, on First Street, it could just be anywhere. I mean, you would know there's nothing defining other than like some of the regional restaurants that some of us would just be familiar with. But I mean, like you want to be able to look at a place and go, oh, like this is a different sign, like what is this? But then eventually we would know and cultivate that sense of place through this, that this is Willmar, Minnesota. So it's, like I said, just kind of a different feel and a different vibe in some of the different general business districts versus the southern part of First Street, which is be more of that national, regional retail, big box kind of thing.
Well, will that restrict then trademark businesses, name brand businesses from going into that area. Because I think of the Legacy building, right? What is the Domino's? What is it? Yeah. We gave them TIF. That was going to be an extension kind of downtown to be able to get restaurants there. I just want to make sure we're not then restricting what can go in there.
Yeah, certainly. So I guess 2 points. That's not tonight. Tonight, we're not trying to restrict trademark
Right.
signage. But also, the secret is these other cities require it, and they make signs that comply with these ordinances too. And so they're not opposed to creating a sense of place in these different communities. They just don't do it if you don't ask. And so I think that's just one of the things that I think we want to get to. I think just kind of down the line, I think we want to create that sense of place and that this corridor feel in some of these areas in our community. I think that would be one of the steps to making it. I think tonight I just wanted to highlight that trademark signage would still be allowed south of Willmar Avenue as a way to incorporate more of that big box, like I said, regional and national chain draw that people are trying to create.
South of Willmar Avenue.
Yeah, that'd be the line of demarcation. So Waltz.
The map is on your system, you go to your PDFs.
Carl?
So just for clarification, Justice, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I know we're not really talking about north of Willmar Avenue, but what is the plan for north of Willmar Avenue? If if Domino's can't have their trademark sign eventually, or Subway, is that kind of where you're headed?
Yes.
I don't understand what.
Yeah. So I guess kind of on that, there would just be more Willmar specific graphic design. It wouldn't be like what their trademark is. Let's say they just changed it a little bit. That would still count. It's not that they can't have a sign. We just are trying to cultivate a sense of place kind of in this more pedestrian scale environment north of Willmar Avenue, where there's a lot more housing, a little denser, and there's more concentration of businesses where people are more likely to walk back and forth. And so, like I said, it's just a different intention for that district. And so I think that one would be more at pedestrian scale. And then the other one, like I said, just currently exists at the car scale, bigger lots. A lot more big box, regional and national draw, more like what they're trying to do, where they have storage outside and things like that.
Tom?
How's that going to work with the current signs out in front of Uptown Mall now? They got probably 5 or 6 of them right up by First Street.
Yeah. So they're in the general business 2 district. So the sign ordinance for the general business 2 district is not changing. Only thing that's changing with that would just be referencing the general business 2 district in our sign ordinance. That way they would have to comply with the sign ordinance. But there would be no new restrictions on the sign ordinances for everything south of Willmar Avenue. So for Uptown Willmar Skylark Mall, nothing would change. Runnings, Menards, Target, all that would still be the same.
Okay. Anything else? All right.
Justice, could you take that off your screen, please?
Oh, yeah.
Bring Audrey back on.
It's me.
Who was there?
Audrey, you had a question.
Just seeking clarification that what we're voting on tonight, the map that we're looking at is Willmar Avenue south to the bypass. So the questions that were being asked about Willmar Avenue north, is that another night or another conversation?
Yeah, that's another conversation. That'd be in the future once we get to that. I think with this one just was more driven, like I said, just the incessant request for constant rezonings, constant text amendments to function. So this was more of a push that we were feeling more pressure from the development community rather than just kind of us doing this. So I think the other one less urgent.
So you'll be bringing something back for Willmar Avenue north that we can have a conversation about.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Was there anybody that wanted to speak to this? All right, I'll close the hearing. Council, what do you want to do?
I would make a motion to adopt, assign a number, and publish the ordinance.
Okay? You got a motion and a second to adopt, assign a number, and publish. Roll call.
Councilmember Davis.
Aye.
Schultes.
Aye.
O'Brien.
Aye.
Butterfield.
Aye.
Osmus.
Aye.
Bagerly.
No.
Nelson.
Aye.
6 ayes, 1 nay.
The motion passes. Okay?
Can I make a
Yes.
comment? I guess if this makes your job easier, instead of people coming back in for all these rezones, then I get that. But I'm concerned of what the consequences are and the ramifications of what this does overall that I can't even see or know yet. But I'm trusting your judgment.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
I felt the same thing as I was listening. What trip ups are there?
Okay.
Yes.
Justice, will
Leslie.
you clarify, this really has nothing to do with the sign ordinance? That's a different ordinance?
Yeah. So I know like a lot of the discussion was kind of around like the sign ordinance and the trademark signage, but everything in general business too will still have the current sign stipulations that exist now. There is nothing restricting them. Like I said, that zoning district is allowed. The intention of it is to be more permissible. That way, there isn't like there isn't these incessant rezoning requests. There isn't a lot of like public plan review on things that make sense in that district, like restaurants and things. So, like I said, just an opportunity to be more permissible in this district. And the other part of this is that this did not rezone any properties tonight. This solely created the district. So I will have to come back to you guys to rezone property into it. So that'll be another night. So nothing, we created a district tonight. The uses, restrictions on anybody, there were no new ones created. Nothing really changed as far as any zoning designations.
Okay. We will move on to the public hearing to remove parking minimums.
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, we need a motion to publish by summary.
Oh, the summary. Yeah, I'm sorry. I checked both of them off. All right, I need a motion to publish by summary.
So moved.
Okay, we got a motion
Second.
and a second. Discussion? Roll call.
Councilmember Schultes.
Aye.
O'Brien.
Aye.
Butterfield.
Aye.
Osmus.
Aye.
Bagerly.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
Okay. So now we'll move, that passes. Now we'll move on to the public hearing to remove parking minimums. Justice, you're up again. We'll open the hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. All right, how much parking do we need? Okay, so overview, just kind of what started this. General trend for parking minimums, that was a question from a council member that I'm included in here. Examples from recent plan reviews, and then the proposed ordinance explained. All right, so catalyst for this ordinance, variance request. So like I said last time, I think the vast majority of the variance requests that we've had recently have been around parking. Whether that be, and I'll get to the different plan reviews that show them, but I mean, the vast majority of variance requests have been for parking. And just generally speaking, if you have that many variance requests around a single ordinance, you should change the ordinance. Obviously, the ordinance isn't working. Obviously, there is support from regulatory boards like the BZA and the Planning Commission to exempt people from the ordinance, and that is more of a trend and a pattern, not just these one-time things. So that's really the start there. And then also just kind of working in the plan review with a lot of different people and different developers coming to us, this is a question that always stalls development. How much parking do I have to build? Okay, well, judging by the square footage of your building, you have to build these many parking spaces. I don't need that many parking spaces. Why do I have to build this many parking spaces? Is there any way that I can build less parking spaces? Well, do I have to pave it? Can I not pave it? We go around and around about this all the time. It's always a major question, and a major barrier to investment in the community is how onerous our parking standards are. And then just generally speaking, staff opinion, is that if we have this many variance requests, if this is a trend in the conversations that people do not want to build this much parking, and they've demonstrated us that they do not need to build this much parking, we think the ordinance should change. So, trend for parking minimums. So there's generally has been a shift to reduce and remove parking minimums. I'm going to get to a map here in a second that kind of shows it. But nationwide, you see that there are certain districts that are exempted from parking. And even in our own downtown, the Central Business District does not require parking. And I know there's a lot of opinions around that about the parking woes in downtown. But then also the second point, just small towns with citywide parking repeals. And so you see the populations listed, 26,000, 20,000, 26,000. Again, this is not just a big city thing where people have these built-out transit systems. This is something that small towns across the nation have been doing. So I'm going to get to this map. Hopefully it comes up. It's pretty interactive here. So, all right, here we go. So as you see, all of these orange dots are places that have restricted parking in some capacity in some areas.
Coming up on
We're
your
not-
I don't think
screen.
we're seeing it.
You guys can't see it. Oh, yeah, it's open on mine. Can I? Oh,
Change your tab at the top.
I think I gotta get out of the. Yeah, this is rolling smoothly. Okay, hold on.
There you go.
There we go. All right. So as you see, like all of these orange dots, these are where people restrict parking in some regard. And so, like I said, we are on this list, Willmar, Minnesota, because of our Central Business District. But as you see, like in other places, red dots are where there's been a citywide repeal on parking. So, as you see, I mean, a lot of communities have places where they restrict parking in some capacity somewhere in the town. And then there are red dots popping up in other places, just because generally speaking, this has been more of a trend, just because this is something that communities are running into across the nation, is that parking is more of a obstacle for people instead of a way to ensure sound development. So then we'll get back to this. Started me all the way over. Just gonna keep clicking. And all right, cool, we're back. So then on the recent plan reviews. So Farm Right, so I have all the plan reviews attached. So Farm Right was one where they're building a new building in town. The plans are being reviewed currently. The square footage for their building required that they build 40 parking spaces. They're showing 24 on their site plan. They don't want to build 24. They would love to build 8. Make the majority of those ADA accessible and keep 8, just because they were like, we're going to destroy this much parking. Like, it's a waste of money for us. We don't want to do it. Then there's the TJ Maxx site where they got approved on the condition that over half of their parking spaces were compact cars. How that even makes sense, I don't know. I mean, all of these small parking spaces that just, once again, parking was an issue for them as well. And so then Slim Chickens, I'll get to theirs, but this is the TJ Maxx site plan. And so on the north side of the building, you can kind of see the demarcation of like a C. Those are the compact parking spaces. And then for Slim Chickens, this is a overview of their site plan, a zoomed out version of their site plan. So they were required to have 50, it was in the 50s, like for their parking. And so in this, I'll get to their zoomed in site plan, they show 29. So for them to meet minimum parking, they had to get a joint parking agreement with the mall to show that they had enough parking to meet code. They're never going to use all of that parking. And my example of that, Guillerme, our city planner, had a zoning verification letter request on the Hobby Lobby site. And he reviewed the plans for the Hobby Lobby site. Hobby Lobby has a massive parking lot, one of the biggest parking lots in town. It's hardly ever full. Hobby Lobby still underbuilt required parking by over 100 sites, under 100 spaces. We don't know how it got approved. There's no variance for it, no nothing. But they underbuilt by parking. They underbuilt on parking spaces by over 100. And their parking lot's still never full. So just for us, I mean, the parking minimums, that's what it looks like. It forces people to overbuild on parking. Also, parking lots aren't free. Per parking space, I mean, you can get quotes anywhere from around $5,000 to $8,000 just on surface street parking. So, I mean, over that 100 parking spaces, they saved well over $500,000. So these are the costs to them. So like I'm saying, I mean, this is a true barrier of investment to the community for people trying to do things. So how would it work? So remove parking minimums, but in reality, it's it really kind of puts the onus on the developer, tell us how much parking that they think they need. So with the current apartment buildings going in, often, like currently our code requires 2 to 1. So for every unit that you have to build 2 parking spaces. Some people build under, some people want to go 1.2, 1.5, some people go 2.1, 2.2. Just kind of varies. But there's never going to be a scenario where people come in, I want to build 400 units, and I'm going to build no parking. It's not going to happen. Just rural Minnesota is just not the trend that the developers see. They want their projects to be successful. They're not going to underbuild on parking to their detriment. That's not going to happen. That's not how developers work. And then the 20% permeable pavement requirement, I think that's one of the things, just kind of looking at stormwater and things like that. But I know in Minnesota, aggressive salt application can cause a problem and like make that 20% permeable pavement to be impermeable. So that's one of the things that I think would be more of up to the developer, kind of talking to them about like what their preferences would be with that. And then the 4 to 1 parking space to tree requirement. Another thing about parking lots, they create this massive wasteland of just concrete. And it's really not the best thing to look at. Trees, a lot better to look at. And so there would now be a 4 to 1 parking space tree requirement, but also with the minimum, there being no minimum, it would be up to them. People would much rather put in trees than put in dozens of parking spaces. And then staff discretion, like I said, they'd have to provide they'd have to show justification for the parking that they're suggesting. So if someone came in with like a low parking ratio, we'd be like, okay, well, like, do you have any projects in other communities? Can we see how this works? And it's like, oh, well, I really only need 12. Here's a place where I have 15. It's only half full. That's why I'm only building 12. I think that works. It'd be more of a negotiation and a conversation with them instead of this very onerous, well, your square footage requires that you build 50, figure it out. And that's currently where we are. And then they just go, well, I'm going to request a variance. So, like I said, the variances and just the pushback and the barrier to entry for development in the community has really kind of led staff to the conclusion that we should push to remove the parking minimums and leave it up to developers for what they want to build as far as parking is concerned in the community. And then with that, I'll turn it over to y'all for any questions.
I have a question. What if you got somebody that's going to build a facility and they say, we only need 2 parking spots, that's all we need?
So that recently happened in our current ordinance. The water treatment facility is not required to build any parking spaces. Square footage alone would have pushed them over 20 parking spaces, but they would tell you that they don't need any.
But if you remove all minimums, what have you got?
Right, and so it would be up to the developer, the person presenting the project, to tell us, I think for my project to be most successful, I've been successful in other communities with this amount of parking, and whether that be more than our code or whether that be less than what the code requires, it would allow for the flexibility for them to do it without them having to pursue a variance, which they have been doing. Like I said, multiple variance requests with parking being the subject of discussion. And TJ Maxx with their 35 compact cars. I don't think they're ever going to be filled with 35 compact cars, but they got them.
What's a compact car today?
Good question, Doug. Good question, Mary Reese. Good question.
Carl.
I just had a question on the 20% permeable pavement. Yeah. What's an example of permeable pavement?
Yeah, good question. So it's like pavers, and so one of the issues with them is just like I said, when there's an aggressive salt application kind of over time, they end up turning permeable or impermeable. So that's one of the things where I think is more of an option for developers instead of something there. It's just if they would like some flexibility on it, they could do it. So.
And that's just to help reduce runoff.
Yep, stormwater concerns.
And are you in favor of that?
Yeah, I am.
Okay, I thought you were, that's, my question was the same thing. I thought you were thinking we didn't need to have that, and I thought.
So I think kind of how it is, I would like to more apply it instead of a requirement as something that they have like an option, as something that they can choose to apply, choose to use it, don't if they don't, but something more of an option.
I got a question. Permeable surface. There was at one time, I don't know if there still is, where bituminous, there was a permeable bituminous surface. They still use that?
Yeah, and so there's been like a lot of advancements with them, especially like in communities where they have flooding issues or where runoff is a major concern, like where they're like adjacent to water bodies and things like that. And so like in different communities, I think, and also I would say especially like in different parts of the nation, more of a thing. But once again, trying to be more flexible and like work with developers on what they want to build and like give them more options to comply, because that's usually the next question, stormwater concerns, and then figuring out what they're going to do with it when they get the plans in, et cetera, et cetera.
Audrey, did you have a question?
I didn't raise my hand, but I do have a question. I think you talked before, so if someone comes in and has an unreasonable plan that doesn't have enough parking, how will you handle that?
Yeah, certainly. So still will be a requirement that it'll be staff's discretion of they have to approve it to us that whatever parking they're showing is the amount of parking that they need, and we don't think that there'll be issues. So if they don't meet that test and it goes to the planning commission, the planning commission puts standards on them that nope, here's the minimum parking that you're going to have, like with your project, staff recommendation. They can still take staff recommendation and enforce that. And so that like on conditional use permits, and then also with our plan reviews, that is a part of it. Ingress and egress has to be met. And then just the nebulous character, not a detriment to the surrounding area, et cetera, et cetera. Those things still allow us to require parking in situations where we feel a developer is trying to be a little deceitful. That doesn't happen though, so.
Julie.
Okay. I understand what you're trying to do, and I agree. Say like you brought up before the example of Subway. They're never going to use all those parking spaces. I get that. But I feel if there is something that's definitive, it helps protect you as well. With this, leave it to staff discretion, I feel like that opens you up to being very subjective and favoritism, and I'm just worried about how the position that puts staff in when it comes to making these decisions.
Certainly, certainly. And so staff, even though that reads staff discretion on the PowerPoint, really, like I said, it's more they have to prove that they need that parking. So it's essentially like an informal parking study that they do, like from different projects where they show, well, in Brainerd, I'm building this. Like in Marshall, I'm building this. Here's the parking ratio that I use. I've been getting away with 1.5. People don't use them. I think I can get down to 1.2 here. Do you think that works? It would be just, well, I think I'm going to build 0.5 and hope for the best. Not going to happen. Need to see it. So as it's written and as it's going to be interpreted and applied is that they have to provide proof for the parking that they're showing. There must be justification. It will never just be up to someone in my position to say, I don't know. I like this guy. 0.2. Let's see what happens. Never going to happen. Never going to happen. So,
Councilmember Davis.
Thank you, Mayor. So will this go to the Planning Commission and Council when people are looking at their parking?
Yep. So on the plan reviews are reviewed by staff internally and then publicly reviewed by the Planning Commission. And like I said, the Planning Commission can set those stipulations for parking minimums or whatever the minimum parking that they want. And I think a part of that process when it's publicly reviewed is making our recommendations from staff of, okay, here's what we feel. We think this project makes sense. We think this all makes sense. And we can point out a part where we think it doesn't make sense and request something. And I think the Planning Commission will uphold our requests. Oftentimes they do. And I think on conditional use permits, same thing. And then when things come to the council, whether that be approved from via consent agenda or it's an item like a major subdivision or an applied or something, you will be able to say, ask questions and also have a say in that. So like I said, functions as must be proven. Like you must show justification for your parking, not functioning as, well, you could just build zero parking and we'll hope for the best. That's, like I said, not the intent.
Tom.
How's that going to affect businesses that were planning on coming in, with their layouts now, and now we change this, and now they want to go, well, I want less parking now.
They're going to be ecstatic. So many people are waiting for this to happen. I'm not joking.
But
multiple people.
Apartment buildings.
For the apartment buildings?
Yeah.
So like the Keepers Project. So I mentioned that last time. At the Keepers Project, we currently require 2-to-1. They overbuilt on parking because what they've seen is that their consumers would like to have storage for snowmobiles, outdoor toys, et cetera, et cetera. And so they overbuilt on parking by, I think, 60 spaces. When that was approved, I was on the Planning Commission. And I remember that was one of the questions. I was like, why are you building so much? Well, we just think it works better for our product. And so everyone's not going to come in and try to build less. For some people, it makes sense for them to build more, so they will. And for several of the plan reviews that are currently in the construction phase, they're very excited for this because Farm Right's one of them. They currently, right now, under the code, have to build 40, and I got an agreement from them that they will build 40. But if this changes, I'm pretty sure they're going to try to build 8 and be very happy about it. And so there are other businesses as well where they're looking at, okay, well, like how much parking do I have to build? And it's like, well, let's talk about it. And that's something that they've been very receptive to, very excited about, that they wish other communities would adopt as well. So like I said, I mean, I know it seems very crazy, but this is something that the business community is in favor of when it comes to just the upfront cost of getting the plans and getting the business off the ground. Parking is much more of a barrier to investment than it has ever been to deliver sound projects.
Vicki?
Well, I think it's a great idea because we have a lot of really big parking lots in our city, and we saw over the winter they got really bad. And like Walmart had to put a lot of money into fixing their parking lot, and I think their lot is way too big. I think this will help a lot of businesses. So I think it's a good idea.
Mike?
Worst case scenario, let's say you give a variance for minimal parking. All of a sudden, this business takes off. All of a sudden, they need a lot more parking. They start taking other people's parking. Then what happens?
I think on, excuse me. So one of the things about planning that I think makes it very tough is you have to be prescriptive. You can't ever really plan for tomorrow. And so you really have to plan for what all of the range of uses and the different intensities and the different traffic flows that these places are going to need. So I think in this, when we're looking at things and we're approving parking minimums and things like that, or like parking designations, it's never going to be about what that particular business uses from our lens. I think from our lens, it's always going to be more about, well, this makes sense. But I think for this corner lot, maybe like if it was an undeveloped corner lot, like the TJ Maxx situation, then it was, okay, well, you probably need to exceed this. And so we would require people, like I said, with more of a lens on that like 5 to 10 year situation, just kind of really envisioning what the use would be in the entire spectrum. Not necessarily just in that very narrow moment of this person saying, well, I don't use this and I just want to underbuild it. And it's like, that don't really make sense. And like I said, so it's to avoid situations like that. But I think, once again, if we look at the justification and it doesn't show that, then I think we would go with the justification. We're never just going to shoot from the hip and not require things, and then put ourselves in a tough spot down the line, like if that business or that property ever changes hands. So.
Okay. I'll make a motion to adopt, assign a number, and publish the ordinance.
Mr. Mayor, we haven't opened up for public
Yeah,
comment
I was
and
gonna
closed the
open it
hearing.
for
I
the
thought they
public
did
to
that first.
speak.
Then it was us.
Does anybody from the public want to address this? Okay, Julie, we'll close the hearing.
Close it. Now, I'll make a
Yeah.
motion to adopt, assign a number, and publish the ordinance.
I'll second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second to assign a number and publish the ordinance. Roll call.
Councilmember O'Brien.
Aye.
Butterfield.
Aye.
Osmus.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Feldes.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
Then we need a motion to publish by summary. I won't forget this time.
So moved. Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. All those, roll call, sorry.
Councilmember Butterfield.
Aye.
Osmus.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Schultes.
Aye.
O'Brien.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
All right, thank you, Justice. All right, Bill, come talk to us about sale of geo improvement bonds.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. On behalf of Administrator Valiant, we would ask for your consideration tonight, a resolution calling for a public hearing on an ordinance authorizing the issuance of general obligation bonds for the improvement of various projects within the city of Willmar. These would be Series 2023 bonds, and it would be, the resolution on the public hearing would include levying for taxes for the payment of the future debt service of the bonds. There's the ordinances included, and if you go a couple pages back, there's a calendar of what we're looking at. We're looking at tonight's date is June 20th, asking for your consideration on a public hearing. Approximately a month from now, we will be back to ask for having that public hearing and considering a resolution authorizing the sale of the bonds not to exceed $9,455,000. Approximately a month later, on August 21st, we are projecting the actual sale of the bonds, and then 3.5 weeks later, we would be looking at receipt and settlement of the bonds to pay for those projects that are already started or will be started later on this year.
Okay. We need a motion to introduce the ordinance and set public hearing for July 17th.
I'll make that motion. Second.
We got a motion and a second to do so. Questions? Roll call.
Councilmember Osmus?
Aye.
Fagerly?
Aye.
Nelson?
Aye.
Davis?
Aye.
Schultes?
Aye.
O'Brien? Butterfield?
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
That passes.
Thank you.
All right, Bill, keep going on the budget calendar.
Okay, the next item is request for a motion to approve the 2024 budget calendar. A copy of that calendar is listed on the next page. There are numerous dates in there. The important dates for the council really are tonight. We are authorizing and asking for you to adopt the budget calendar. There's numerous processes that have already been undertaken as far as working with the department heads and getting their budgets developed. We will be bringing forth to the city council the capital improvement program for your scoring later on in July. By August 14th, we'll be looking at a council work session on those capital improvement projects. Later on in August, we will be internally working on developing the budget so that on September 5th, Mr. Mayor, you would be presenting the proposed budget to the City Council. From there, it may take 1 or 2 meetings to do that. We would then publish notices in the paper about the December meetings for the Truth and Taxation hearing on the proposed budget, which would be on December 4th, and if a continuation is necessary on December 18th, with the idea that by the end of the year, the certification of the tax levy would be to the county. As a point of information, this is virtually the same calendar as it was last year.
And we need a motion on this?
I'll make a motion to accept the 2024 calendar, finance calendar.
Second.
Yep. We have a second?
Yeah.
Mike? Okay. Questions? Roll call.
Councilmember Fagerly?
Aye.
Nelson?
Aye.
Davis?
Aye.
Schultes?
Aye.
O'Brien?
Aye.
Butterfield?
Aye.
Osmus?
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
That passes.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Bill. All right, Kyle, consider amendment to social media policy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, council. We are back in front of you this evening again with an amendment to one of our internal policies. Tonight is our social media policy, and I will apologize in advance about not having a red line version in the packet, but as you'll notice that the original policy is very limiting and maybe did not serve it justice to even red line. So we did start from scratch to really start with a fresh policy. This is a template from the League of Minnesota Cities, and I have to give credit to our own Dave Hillebrand, who really took this on and a lot of his insight, since this is where his realm is, managing our social media accounts. So thank you, Dave, for putting this together for us. So really, to go through the policy, it's catered to Willmar's needs. The 2012 policy does not contain a purpose or a scope and lacks the details on how staff should enforce the existing policy. So what this does is just gives more direction to staff and make it clear for its users for the social media policy. I will pause there if there are any questions.
So this is an amendment?
Yep, I'll interrupt myself again, and this is just an internal policy only. So this is for our city employees. And correct, Mr. Mayor, this is an amendment to the existing 2012 policy.
Okay. Questions? Otherwise, we need a motion to amend the social media policy.
So moved.
Second.
You got a motion and a second. Questions?
I had a question.
Yeah, Rick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Kyle, under page 206, employees and agents.
Yes.
Says such as independent contractors or council members. Shouldn't it be elected officials? Because it would include the mayor then.
Correct, we can make that change. Thank you, Councilmember.
So the amendment would be redone.
Well, we would make that for the employees and agents, as used in this policy. Employees and agents means all city representatives, including its employees and other agents of the city, such as independent contractors or elected officials.
Okay.
So we will replace council members with elected officials.
Okay. Any questions? Otherwise, I'm looking for a motion.
We have the motion. We're ready for the roll call if
We got the motion?
we do, yes.
Okay, roll call.
Councilmember Nelson?
Aye.
Davis?
Aye.
Schultes?
Aye.
O'Brien?
Aye.
Butterfield?
Aye.
Osmus?
Aye.
Fagerly?
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
The motion passes. Thank you, Kyle. Next is consideration of sale of THC product license. Judy.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, my office recently received an application from Mohammed Hassi, doing business as Mr. Smoke. He is planning to open a business at 1709 First Street South, and he would like to sell THC products. So staff is recommending approval of his license.
Make a motion to approve.
Your motion. We have a second.
Second.
We got a second. Discussion? Rick?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So where is 1709 First Street? My office is at 1609.
Let's see, it's a middle.
Next to Starbucks.
Yes, yep. Right between Starbucks and Aspen Dental.
All right.
Well, that's think of-
1600.
This 17.
1605. I believe.
It's got 1709 First Street South, but it is that in the strip mall between Aspen Dental and Starbucks.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Tom?
Yeah, I just got a question. I'll wait for the discussion.
What's that?
I just have a question. Are we going to limit the number for this product for businesses, or is it going to be wide open? when we passed that ordinance before.
I will turn that over to Mr. Box, as he drafted the ordinance or was involved in the ordinance.
Sure. Thank you, Councilmember. Currently, there is not a limit to how many THC licenses the city of Willmar will issue. This is all going to change probably a year from now. With the adult use cannabis bill being passed, the THC regulations fall within that bill as well. So we will actually, in a near future, we will actually lose the ability to license THC products at the city level. That will all go through the Office of Cannabis Management, I believe. Since that program, or since that office and licensing authority is not up and running yet, we still have the ability to license at the city level, at the municipal level, and staff would recommend to continue to do so until that time.
Audrey?
I just have a question. Has the police department approved this, or should the motion include the pending police department approval as it states?
Thank you, Councilmember Nelson. The application did come through our office. I was able to review it today and sign off on it. It may not have reached the city clerk yet, but it's en route anyway. So.
Mike?
The THC approval, and then you had the cannabis that will probably kick in probably next year sometime. Will one have anything to do with the other?
Flip a coin for you. There's a lot of different things that works there. To be honest, I don't know at this point. I believe there are changes in the existing THC sales or hemp-based products and that type of thing that all have to be fleshed out yet. That it's a very confusing law that just got passed there. So, but we expect a lot of changes coming up in the next year.
Okay, any other questions? We have the motion, right?
Correct.
And the second. Roll call.
Councilmember Davis.
Aye.
Schultes.
Aye.
O'Brien.
Aye.
Butterfield.
Aye.
Osmus.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
Like it?
That passes. All right. Justice, accepting Willmar Area Community Foundation grant funds.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. So I think on this one, I think there were leftover funds from the Willmar Area Community Foundation, and they were, I guess, distributed among staff for different projects. I really think this should have been.
Yeah.
No, this should have been. Yeah. I guess, yeah. Can you explain this? I'm sorry, this should have been me.
Pull this down. So the Willmar Area Community Foundation reached out to Pablo and I mentioning that they had extra funds at the end of this year. So they said we were able to apply for these funds or this extra grant money. So that's what we've done at this point. We're waiting to kind of hear back if they've accepted our proposed projects for these funds. Yeah. But it's just, from my understanding, it's just extra funds that they have at the end of the year.
Tom?
And it is in the budget already, or is this, we're going to be pulling it out of CIP or what?
So I think this is them just giving us like a grant donation. Yeah, so it's just.
Basically accepting a grant.
Yeah, we're just trying to accept money coming into the Main Street Fund and if Pablo has a project. Yeah.
They want to give us money, I'll make a motion to approve accepting $2,000 from the Willmar Area Community Foundation.
This is the resolution. Go ahead, Vicki.
Second.
Okay, we got a second for the resolution. Any other questions? Roll call.
Councilmember Schultes.
Aye.
O'Brien.
Aye.
Butterfield.
Aye.
Osmus.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
Okay, thank you. So Justice, now we got planning and development grant updates.
All right, there we go. All right, yeah, so this one would be Mayor Riley again. So this one I am familiar with. So earlier, if you guys remember, several months ago, we did come back. We came to the council and we asked for several grants to be approved, and I just kind of want to provide an update on what some of those grants were and some of the projects and what we're going to be doing with them. So one of them was actually to the Willmar Area Community Foundation and through the U of M for Rural Sustainability Development Partnership to fund an equitable communication project. And so what that's going to be looking at is exactly what it is, equitable communication, looking at sending out official communications from the city and official reporting on the city in non-English for our non-English readers and our non-English speakers in the community. And so it's going to look like a joint partnership between myself, the planning department, community growth department, MMDC, U of M, and then also Ridgewater at putting together a project just kind of around putting together, let's say, digital media for our non-English speakers in the community on just kind of official things happening in the community, from whether that be planning commission decisions, notices, or just good information going out, just how to be a better neighbor, or what some of these things mean in the community, how to keep up with different things. We're going to be working, like I said, it's going to be on a joint project, and eventually the hope is that this cultivates a pipeline for people in the community to be more civically engaged, whether that be on different boards, different commissions throughout the community, but this is the start of it, and that's the Equitable Communication Project. Like I said, we got a grant for that, and then I'm going to turn it over to Riley to talk about some of the other grants that we received and some of the things we're going to do with them.
So earlier this year, we wrote in that that Willmar Main Street was going to apply for a handful of grants, one of them being the community focus grant provided by United Way and Willmar Area Community Foundation. We were awarded a partial grant of $1,000 for that, so I'll say a quick thank you to those two organizations for providing that. That went towards funding the band for Cinco de Mayo, which ended up being, to me, a huge event. I think we had close to 500 people come through for that activity, and we really couldn't have done it without funding from our different organizations and sponsorships. The other grant we applied for at the beginning of this year was through SMOC, the Southwest Minnesota Arts Council. And so we applied for a $3,000 grant to try and start the Downtown Artist Series. That is something we're hopefully starting in August. That is the first planned activity. We're working still through some minor details with the artists. Essentially, this program is working with various types of artists with different types of mediums. So some of our projects that we're working on getting started is like a henna class. So we're working with the Somali community to work and put together a program like that to kind of explain what is henna, how to make it, to really try and open up this art and this craft from a different culture and kind of open it up so that other cultures can like look into it and see, well, what is it, and try and integrate that more. So there's a few other projects going through with that, but that's our closest one to being ready to talk about. So those are the two, I think that's all the grants that we had that I applied for.
Okay, this is for information only.
Yep, not seeking any action, just an update on something that y'all approved. So.
Okay. Anything else?
No.
Okay, well, you got to tell us about short-term rentals now.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. So just kind of how it's about out and kind of the overview. So I think over the past 3 months, I've gotten more requests around short-term rentals than I've gotten for the rest of the time that I've worked here. And so that's questions and concerns from neighbors, questions and inquiries regarding prospective Airbnb hosts. And they kind of range. So some people want to exclusively run these Airbnbs in residential communities. Some people are looking at possibly just renting out a room. And so a lot of people call and they want to know what the city's regulations surrounding them are. And so I've had several conversations with the planning commission around it, and I think we're more on the same page that short-term rentals drive up the cost of housing. That is, from a research standpoint, they don't drive down the cost of hotels, but they do drive up the cost of housing just from the residential investment that people put in and the commercial return that they can expect to see from it. And just kind of from the concern standpoint of different neighbors, they've had, whether that be issues on the weekends or people not cleaning up trash, et cetera, we've just gotten a lot of calls around it about what people want to do with it, or what people want to do with it, and then how the city handles it. And so with that, I guess on some spectrum, I mean, there's communities like us where we don't really have any regulations around it, and then other communities have created entire departments whose job it is to play whack-a-mole with these things. They hire inspectors, they get people after them. I mean, like, we're talking like a dozen people in a department whose sole job is to find these and crush them. Like, and I use that word like purposely. So just seeking direction on kind of what y'all want to do with it and what council would like us to do from a staff level. I would like to know if you guys want us to put together an ordinance for it, or if you guys just kind of want to leave it as it is. But right now the ordinance is silent on it, and just wanted direction from council on what to do. And that's just part of it. I could see if we were New London, Spicer, or like more of a resort community, but I don't know what was the tipping point in the past 3 months, but I've gotten over a dozen phone calls about it.
Julie, go ahead.
I wonder if some of it isn't like furnished finder. You've got all of the traveling nurses that need housing from 30 to 90 days in our area. And I still think probably VRBOs and Airbnbs would still be an option for people in this area as well, if they don't want hotels for families or large groups. But I think we should have something. I would be in favor of trying to put together some kind of an ordinance or some kind of regulations, just to protect the homeowner and the people renting the place and the neighbors.
Yeah.
So the complaints you're getting are from neighbors, or is it from owners of properties that want to start doing this?
So complaints and just questions, because they want to know if the city's going to do anything, can the city do anything, from the people who are, I would say, on the edge of complaining. And then I have gotten multiple requests where people are looking at properties being auctioned in town, and they're like, well, I'm going to buy it and run it as an Airbnb. Where are you at on that? And so one of the answers that I've given is that I think eventually if we were to draft something, I know the planning commission is more in favor of drafting something where the requirement for the Airbnb would be homesteaded instead of just being ran exclusively as an Airbnb, which is essentially a hotel and a commercial thing in a residential neighborhood. I know that's one of the things that they expressed concern about that they would like to see. But other than that, I mean, no direction. So I've gotten multiple phone calls from people looking to buy houses in town for the sole purpose of running them as Airbnbs, and I think that's what undermines the affordable housing or workforce housing effort that we've also undertaken in other capacities as the city.
So if they do that, they would have to get a permit, wouldn't they, to rent it out?
No.
Not right now, no. No, they can just do it. And so that's what's happening. So people are calling and asking, okay, well, I'm pretty sure my person's running, like my neighbor's running an Airbnb. Is there anything that the city's going to do about that? And so here we are. And I've just gotten more of those phone calls lately. And not from the same person also.
Yeah. So does the county do anything? Because there's some properties on lakes that they rent out by the week or a month.
Yeah, I'm not sure. So I have gotten phone calls from other administrators in the community, just kind of wondering what we do around it. And for a lot of them, I mean, they were more so concerned on the taxation side, just because in bigger cities, you have a lot of the food and bev industries and hospitality industries really pressing cities to do something because they're paying this 25% tax, and these Airbnbs are undercutting them. So the conversations I've had with them of how to construct an ordinance, and I've been telling them that we don't have one, but I'm not familiar with anything that county has on the books prohibiting them, though it would make sense. Like I said, I mean, resorts are more of a thing out in the county.
Thank you.
Wouldn't the League of Minnesota Cities have some samples? And-
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, they do probably have some samples. Like I said, I think so. One of the questions that I do want to ask that I want direction on is the distinction between homesteaded and non-homesteaded. And so essentially that would allow a homesteaded property owner to rent out one of their rooms, or if they were living in a 4-bedroom house, rent out the 3 of their rooms as long as they're just living there full time. And then the non-homesteaded, like I said, would essentially allow like that 4-bedroom house to function as a 4-bedroom hotel, as a commercial property in a residential area, which I think is the one that we're having concerns and calls about, and I think would be the one that would directly undermines the workforce housing effort in the community. So like I said, I'd be more in favor of the homesteaded one. So I think that's the one that I want some opinions and directions on.
Mike?
You had mentioned some of the neighbors were possibly complaining. Actually, I asked the chief. Chief felt the question, is there an uptick in any traffic as far as these short-term rentals for you?
Nothing that's been brought to my attention.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Now we got to take some action
Audrey.
on this. It says, Audrey, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Reese. I think I'd like us to have a conversation regarding this. We've had these conversations at the Convention and Visitors Bureau also, and I do think that there's a lot more out there than what people realize, and there's a lot of people searching for places for a family to come to, and so I think it would be important for us to be proactive and perhaps look at what some other communities are doing, and I'd like us to at least take a look at it and find out what the county and some of the other communities are doing too, and maybe we can come up with something that makes sense for the region.
Yeah. Robert?
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. I just wanted to offer my comment quickly. I had read the city's existing rental housing ordinance as literally applying to any dwelling unit that is rented to a third party. So I do believe that to the extent you have short-term rentals operating without a license, those would be a violation of the rental housing ordinance, which is great in theory. In practice, being able to know when that's happening by staff, and I see Justice grinning because he knows this is true, is very difficult. So I would just offer to Justice and the council, our office has helped several cities prepare short-term rental ordinances, so I think we could be helpful here.
So I guess to provide context on that, we get a lot of pushback on like, this isn't a rental, this isn't a rental, this is a short-term rental. So there's a lot of like the cat and mouse with it from a lot of like the property owners and the people running the host, because we do have a large-scale short-term rental host operating in town that we've run into, and they've hid behind that on several occasions. So.
Okay, it says roll call. Were you looking for some action here tonight, or?
I think the direction I got would be sufficient. I don't know if I need a official thing, but I mean, I think what I got is enough.
I think you work with Robert.
Yeah, that works for me.
Understood.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Kyle, rebranding.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to take us back a few months, the council approved city staff to release a request for proposals, an RFP, in April of this year to search for qualified consultants to research, create, develop, and help generate an implementation plan for a city branding initiative for the city of Willmar. Taking us a little even further back, the city council adopted the red W logo as the official city logo in the 1990s. Since brand development strategy or standards were not created during that process, various department logos have been developed independently over time. What we were trying to accomplish during this proposal, during this RFP process, is to create a new identity for Willmar and all the city departments to adopt and utilize one brand for messaging. Primary goals of this project are to create uniformity, community identity and pride, community and economic development, promotion, flexibility, endorsement, And each one of these goals has a definition of success. Now, during the RFP process, which was open for approximately 4 weeks, the city received 20 different proposals from professional consultants with vast backgrounds, professional experience, and data-driven results. The scoring committee was made up of 4 people, including council members Osmus and Davis, Administrator Valiant, and myself. And out of the 20 received proposals, 15 made it into the first round. The reason 5 were eliminated or not considered for first round scoring is they vastly kind of missed what we were looking for in the proposal, didn't meet what we were looking for, or were severely out of our idea budget range. And just a little history or just a little information on that, we received proposals all the way from on the low end of $9,000 all the way upwards of $150,000, with the majority landing in the range that we're going to be talking about tonight. So out of those 15, each one of those proposals were read and scored by the committee on a predetermined weighted questionnaire. And out of those 15, 4 were moved on to the second round interviews by the committee, scoring committee, for one-on-one interviews to allow time for more in-depth questions and to get to know each one of those companies. So the rebranding scoring committee unanimously recommends Replace to lead Willmar's rebranding efforts. Now, Replace, a little history on them. They are a Minnesota company just out of Minneapolis. And if you are I was just made aware of this yesterday. I've been exchanging emails with the owner, Jeff Johnson. And if you are a Care 11 viewer, he was actually featured on their channel last night for some work that he does personally with how he tributes his kids' birthday parties or kids' birthdays every year. So if you have a chance, look that up. And that really gives you an insight to who this individual is and how passionate he is. Replace has been around for quite a while. They have worked with many other civic clients, including the City of Becker, the City of Columbia Heights, and the City of Delano. I did have the opportunity to reach out to all 3 of those communities. Unfortunately, nobody with the City of Becker was there during that rebranding process, but had an opportunity to exchange emails with the City Administrator in Delano and wholeheartedly recommended working with this company. Similar experience with the City of Columbia Heights. Fantastic experiences, able to deliver in just a well-rounded product. There's some other maybe noticeable clients that this company has, and I should back up a little bit too. This is a company of 3 people based out of Minneapolis, and their client list includes the State Fair of Minnesota. So they do all of the marketing, all of the branding for the Minnesota State Fair. Travelers Insurance, Best Buy's Geek Squad. So I mean, just seeing those client lists that this company has gave the committee really reassurance that they would be able to deliver during the civic engagement or civic rebranding process. Another fun fact, or an interesting fact about this individual is his tie to Willmar. If you had an opportunity to read the proposal in your packet, Jeff Johnson is a native to North Dakota as a farm kid growing up, but throughout his years, one of his sisters moved to Willmar roughly 30 years ago, I believe, and he would come here every summer, swim at Robbins Island, go to the Dairy Queen, visit Candy Mall, and just really idolizes Willmar, and that passion was there during that one-on-one interview. So what comes next if the council does decide to accept this proposal to work with this company? There's approximately a 16-week turnaround time where a kickoff meeting would be held, information gathering would be happening, there'd be meetings with the council, with community members, with staff, on how can we effectively tell Willmar's story, and that was something that I had talked about with you when we brought this forward. How can we tell Willmar's story? So that's built into the 3 phases that this proposal includes. And I'm just giving you a high-level information, but if you have questions, I'd be happy to deep dive into those a little bit more. And again, like I said, this is a 16-week turnaround time, but that is a little bit flexible. It depends on how fast or how slow we want to move on our end. It would be really neat to have a product launch in 2024, a new brand identity for Willmar. I think just maybe it would go really well with the new City Hall Community Center as well. But there's multiple different areas that we can maybe touch base on. But maybe, if you're okay with it, Mr. Mayor, if council members Osmus or Davis have any comments they want to make, as they were a part of the scoring committee as well.
Yes.
Well, I was really impressed by these people. I liked the designs they had for the state fair, the Geek Squad. I mean, those are very recognizable. And then his excitement to work with Willmar was amazing. He was so happy that he could have the chance to work with us. And then their price, I mean, most of them were $50,000 and over. So this was one of the lower priced ones, but his product was really good for that price range. So that was my feelings on it.
As I listened to you talk about it, Kyle, I thought, how are we going to have any one of these companies really know the city of Willmar and have the ability to reflect that in a rebranding product? And I think you answered it with the recommendation. Tom?
You know, Kyle, with the cost of inflation going up, how are you going to address it to our constituents, taxpayers, saying, okay, now we're going to take $35,000, put towards this. We just pulled money out from our rec department to build this yoga pad. We took money away from the kids. Isn't this a good spot where we can say, hey, inflation is up there. How am I going to see a return on my investment back to me? You know, for this $35,000 when we already got in the budget, we could probably steamroll this over towards the kids that got messed over on the yoga pad.
Sure. Thank you, Councilmember. This question, I think, would be, I'll do my best to answer it, but I think if Director Walker maybe would be able to attest, Executive Director Bachman would be able to attest on the importance of having brand identity for a community and what that does to attract developers. Just one area. The ability to retain and interest people in moving to a community. This community is unified. They know what they're doing. They look professional. I want to live in Willmar. We can go on and on and on, but I think having that unified message for the community, for us to be invested in, and to show to the region, to show to the state, I think that's the return on investment. And if we implement this brand strategy correctly and well, and we're all invested in it, that's getting people to come to Willmar, attracting businesses to Willmar. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, Tom.
So,
Get up to
3
the
years, would you
microphone.
see your property rates going down then?
Mike, Tom, get up to the microphone.
So in 2 to 3 years, would you see your property rates going down then, after implementing this?
That's a council decision on your property rates when you set the budget, council member. I wouldn't say this project would have a direct correlation with setting the property taxes or the budget.
You know, you were talking about it's going to bring businesses in town. You know, this $35,000 is going to bring in, you know, $100,000 in tax money. Yeah, then it's worth it. But if we're not going to see that investment, then it's really not worth it.
Councilmember O'Brien?
$35,000 or whatever this is one thing, but what's it going to cost to change all these on all our vehicles and all our clothing and all this? What's that going to cost?
That's a great question, council member. It will cost money. I'm not up here to hide the fact that this isn't going to cost more money than just the $35,000. This just gets us started. But we don't have to do it all at once. We can fit it into the budget where it's acceptable on decals, on clothing, on signage. It's all a part of the package. It's all built into this implementation plan on what does year 3, 4, 5 look like for the city and on turning this all around. It's an investment. I can't give you exact going back to Councilmember Butterfield, I can't give you a date when we're going to see that $35,000 return on investment or when we're going to see a reduction in property taxes or even promise you that. I can't do that. I truly believe that these types of projects work. I think just the unification of bringing a community together is well worth the project when it's implemented correctly and people can get behind the messaging.
All right, it says that this is a resolution.
Correct. This would be a resolution to accept the proposal.
Okay. Julie, did you want to?
Well, this is one of those things, as Mr. Box explained, that makes us look professional, that makes us look like a regional center. We maybe don't need to pay money to paint the streetlights, and that isn't going to make our property tax go down, but it's going to make our city look better. And right now, we have a whole hodgepodge of city letterheads and city logos on city business cards that you wouldn't even know that we were all the same city. So it's just part of what makes us look professional. And it's time. It's been 30 years, and we need to upgrade. And it's just one of those things that you do to stay vital as a city.
Okay. Thank you. Carl?
I would agree with Julie that I think you might not see an immediate return on investment, but I think it is something that, at the very least, it'll be a break even. It sounds like a lot of money, up to $100,000 maybe, I don't know, what it might cost by the time it's all said and done. But if you get one or two businesses to come into town to create more jobs, build a tax base, then that's all good. So.
And I also would point out that I don't know how everything aligned this way, but the economic development is looking at rebranding. The county is looking at rebranding. Convention and Visitors Bureau everybody right now is looking at rebranding. So this would be the time that we could all work with each other, whether that's a color scheme, whether that's some kind of a design or an idea, but the timing's good for everybody thinking about getting more professional in their appearance, and we're all doing it at the same time, which is ironic.
Yeah.
Leslie?
Over the years, the Willmar Area Lakes Chamber, along with multiple fractions throughout the organizations, have struggled with a tagline, and that has haunted the area for a long, long time. Ever since I've been in the area, that has been a conversation on an annual basis, trying to come up with a tagline. Throughout that, nobody has spent the money to bring a professional in to try to work on those taglines, and it really is difficult for somebody that's not in that process to try to come up with those taglines. This will be part of that process with Refresh. I think they bring just a lot of strength in what they do, and for $35,000, that's very minimal investment for what they have shown that they can do for us. You look at what they did for Columbia Heights and for Becker, they call them badges of their different departments and such. it was incredible what they did for Becker, and I'm really excited that they could really give us a new look for the city of Willmar that would probably just be a wow factor for a lot of our organizations throughout the community also.
All right.
I would just add that there's a reason businesses will spend huge bucks on a logo. People identify with it.
That's right.
Anybody willing to introduce the resolution?
I will introduce that resolution to.
Second.
Here we got a motion and a second. Discussion? Roll call.
Councilmember O'Brien.
Aye.
Butterfield.
Nay.
Osmus.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Schultes.
Aye.
6 ayes, 1 nay.
The resolution passes. Thank you. Thank you, Kyle. All right, set the public hearing to create Industrial 3 District and rezone land into Industrial 3 District.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. So tonight, there's two separate ordinances presented here. So one to create the district and then one to rezone land into it. So there'll need to be 4 separate motions associated with it. And so once again, this is just setting the public hearing and introducing the ordinance. So if you guys remember at a work session several months ago, we talked about just what the development schedule looked like for the Willmar Rail Park project. Said it was going to be very involved, had a lot of steps. A lot of it kind of existed at the planning commission level with the purchase agreement, rezonings, land use reviews, et cetera, et cetera. And so now we're at the rezoning step where this has passed the planning commission and needs to be passed by council. And so the Industrial 3 District, just as a refresher, is a district that is separate from I-1 and I-2 and is exclusive for rail uses. And so we have, at the public hearing, I outlined a lot of the uses and what they will be, but one of the things that we wanted to maintain for this was that this must be associated with rail. Since this is a big investment, this is something that the community has been working on for over a decade. And we want to maximize the rail that we're going to use and this investment that the city has made into this. And so that's one of the reasons that the I-3 district is set up the way it is. I'll get into it, like I said, at the public hearing, where it's there's all sorts of uses with it. But like I said, one of the major distinctions is that it must use some rail component. Like I said, part of the process that I outlined at a work session several months ago. But this is just to set the public hearing date and introduce the ordinance. So with that, turn it over to you, Mr. Mayor, for any questions.
All right.
I'll make a motion to introduce the ordinance and set the public hearing date for July 17th to create the I-3 district and rezone the land into the I-3 district.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Discussion. Roll call.
Mayor, members of the council, I'm sorry to interrupt. There are 2 ordinances in the packet, and this ordinance, as I understand it, is to establish the district, the I-3 district, and then a second action in a moment will be to actually rezone the property. So I just wanted to clarify, this is the first ordinance, which is to create the district only.
Okay, thank you. Roll call.
Should we have Councilmember Osmus restate the motion? Because she included them.
You want to
both in
break
one.
that up into 2. It doesn't say that here, but.
Yeah, I wasn't.
Okay.
You identified it as rezoning land into Industrial 3, right?
Yeah, I apologize. Everybody's guide, I think, has it combined as one motion, and then recommending that they be handled separately since there are 2 ordinances in your packet. So,
Okay, so is the first one just to set the public hearing for July 17th?
to introduce that ordinance to establish the district and set the public hearing for July 17th, yes.
I think that's what I said.
The other one
Kind
is to include the land in the rezoning. That's the other ordinance
Ah.
that needs to be separated.
Forget that part. Okay. I will make a motion to set the public hearing for July 17th to create the I-3 district.
Second.
Okay. We got a motion and a second. Discussion. Roll call.
Councilmember Butterfield.
Aye.
Osmus.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Schultes.
Aye.
O'Brien.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
So the next one is the rezoning.
Now I'll make a motion to rezone the land into the I-3 district.
Yes,
Next.
that is the next ordinance, but before you get there, I'd recommend, since this is kind of lengthy, that you take a motion to publish this ordinance that was just introduced by summary.
Make a
Okay.
motion to publish that by summary.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second to publish by summary. Roll call.
Councilmember Osmus.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Schultes.
Aye.
O'Brien.
Aye.
Butterfield.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
All right, Robert, what do we do?
Now you're going to let me rezone this?
Yeah. We're ready, yes. Thank you for.
I would like to make a motion to rezone the land into an I-3 district, because I think this is exciting stuff.
You done?
I'm done.
Okay, we got a motion and a second to rezone. Questions? Roll call.
Councilmember Fagerly.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Schultes.
Aye.
O'Brien. Butterfield.
Aye.
Osmus.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
That passes.
And again,
I would
staff is recommending published by summary
Yeah.
for this one as well.
I'll make a motion to publish it by summary.
Second.
We got a motion to second to publish by summary. Discussion? Roll call.
Councilmember Nelson.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Schultes.
Aye.
O'Brien.
Aye.
Butterfield.
Aye.
Osmus.
Aye.
Fagerly. 7 ayes, 0 nays.
All right, that passes. Councilmember O'Brien, you have a pride announcement.
Yes, Willmar Public Utilities, we got the information in our last meeting about our water rate comparisons around the state. And the highest in the state was $82.73. The lowest was $11.13. Willmar Municipal Utilities was $33.93. I've been asked that question numerous times, what our water rate is. So we are setting very well right now for our rate in our water in comparisons to others.
33rd in like-size communities, or what?
The cost of the water is $33.93. Give you an example, Fairmont right now is up, they're the highest, actually. Fairmont is the highest right now. And other cities, we got a comparison of about 50 different cities here. We have comparisons about 50 different cities here. Pardon me? 31. And we have other comparisons too that we had before. And anyway, the fact is that we're ranked 17th out of 31 in Minnesota for our cost of our water.
Anything else?
The only thing I'd like to say is, talking about the THC licensing, I think we should tread water very carefully with this, depending on what happens with this new law for cannabis. I don't know if one's going to have anything to do with the other, but I think we better be very careful about getting these licenses away until we find out what's going on. Just a suggestion.
Anything else? Otherwise, we will adjourn to closed session. We need a motion to enter into closed session.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion. You going to correct me again?
Council, I think we need to follow the outline to make sure that we've cited the statute to properly close the meeting. And we have 2 closed sessions, correct?
Correct.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. So
I got to dig deeper.
We'll need to close the meeting twice. We'll have to do the same thing twice. Sorry.
Okay. Legal basis for closing the meeting is this portion of the regular meeting of the city council will be closed pursuant to Minnesota statute section 13D.05 subdivision 3C. The following real property will be discussed separately in the closed session. Parcel 95-921-5690. Follow the procedure for motions.
Now call for the motion to close.
Okay? Looking for a motion to close the meeting.
So moved. Second.
Is that a roll call then again?
Yes.
Okay, roll call.
Councilmember Davis.
Aye.
Schultes.
Aye.
O'Brien. Butterfield.
Aye.
Osmus.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
The city council is now in closed session pursuant to Minnesota statutes 13D.05 subdivision 3C. The time is 8:36.